Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Art of MMA. I'm your host, Mike Ginn, joined as always, the mechanic, Brandon Cuttino. Brandon, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man, it's good to be back on a Tuesday.
Man, we had some awesome fights last weekend. Kind of surprising. I kind of lit into Dana's ass on Twitter for even keeping that as a pay-per-view. I still don't think it was worth $70, but, you know, the business model is the business model, and he's not one to really back down from anything. Today, we will be breaking down UFC 258, Usman over Burns, and a bunch of the other fights on that card. We'll be talking about UFCVegas 19, Blaydes and Lewis. We'll be breaking that down and making our picks. And then, of course, we'll be talking about the news. But first, if I can borrow some time, I want to talk about something kind of important to me. I've never really shied away from anything, and I'm talking about this for myself, not talking about it for Brandon or Art of MMA. This is strictly coming from me. Gina Carano. This has made a lot of headlines for a lot of the wrong reasons this week. You have people politicizing this, and it is a political situation. I absolutely understand Trump supporter, Republican, conservative versus liberal, Democrat. I get it. But people need to understand something about what Gina Carano has been doing for the last year or so. And I'm one of Gina Carano's hugest fight fans. I've been begging for her to come back. I begged for the Ronda Rousey fight. I think she's actually, from every interview I've ever seen, I think she's one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. But what she's been doing, her quote-unquote subtweets, her retweets, her likes, her sharing stories of, and she's become more aggressive of some of that stuff over the last few months, of things that are absolutely horrific. To compare being a Republican today to what Nazis went through, what Jewish people went through with Nazis, is not only a slap in the face to our democracy. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. It's a slap in the face to an entire culture. I want to speak up for Ariel Helwani, who I absolutely don't like. I've never hid the fact that I'm not his biggest fan. We've had some personal encounters that he probably doesn't even remember that rubbed me the wrong way. But he's a journalist. He might be above me, but he's the same as me. And for what Dana White to call him a douche for basically just speaking the truth, I think is ridiculous on Dana's part. Dana shouldn't have played any part in this. I know he's a Republican. I know he's a friend of Gina's. Once again, he should have stayed out of it. It's not his business. Gina didn't just make a mistake. This is not cancel culture. I'll agree with so many people that says cancel culture has gone too far. It's a dangerous game. I just heard Angela Hill talk about it. It's a dangerous game. This is not that. 10 years ago, if Gina Carano had been doing what she's doing today, she would have gotten fired for Mandalorian and everything else just the same. This is called consequences for your actions. This is saying something, retweeting something, sharing something, putting it on your Instagram story, and knowing that you work for a very public company in Disney and you did not care. And these are called consequences for your actions. And this is what Gina Carano has to face now. I don't care if she has a movie deal with Ben Shapiro. That's going to sell what? 5 copies? Nobody cares. She just lost the Star Wars franchise, one of the hugest franchises in all of entertainment. She will always have love in the MMA community for what she's done. But this is my personal opinion, that these are consequences for her actions. We've long since said wearing a mask is your personal choice. I choose to wear a mask every time I go out. I can't speak for Brandon. I can't speak for anybody who's been on the show. I can speak for myself. What she did, she took it way too far. And for the entire Jewish community to stand up, you can't bash them for that. That's their heritage that she just bashed, comparing it to that. Our democracy is way more important, whether you're Republican or Democrat, to be compared to Nazi Germany. So that's my 2 cents on it. That's my hot take, if you will. I want to get on to the show. I do apologize for anybody that, might be offended, but the truth is, that's just my opinion, and I'm not going to back down from it. You can feel free to debate me online, but that's just the way I feel. So that said, let's get on to the show. A couple things real quick, Brandon. Brandon's rocking the Art of MMA shirt. If you guys haven't tuned out after my little rant, I am as well. Feel free to go online. See the promo code on the bottom of the screen. It's going to be Usman10 in honor of the champ. So go on, save 10%, and let's get on to the show. Brandy, ready to talk about some news?
You know it.
All right. First off, foremost, Stefan Struve retired. What a career. I mean, this guy took 4 or 5 fights before he even turned 18 as a pro. Fighting out of the Netherlands. This guy has had some of the most amazing knockouts and some of the most in submissions, and he's also been a victim of many of them as well. I'll never forget, him stopping Bigfoot Silva in the first round. I always remember that fight. He beat Nogueira. Hell, a lot of people don't know this. He beat Stipe. He beat Stipe back in 2012. So, he's lost some memorable fights. Everybody's going to remember the Roy Nelson fight. Brandon, what are some of the more better memories of Struve that you'll remember?
I mean, I definitely like his fight that he had with Pat Barry. I know they were both good friends. That was a fight with 2 friends fighting each other. But yeah, man, I mean, he was just a guy who just always brought it, entertaining fights. Like you say, he had knockouts, he had submissions, he could do it all. I guess my thing is, man, I just felt like he was just a guy who just never, to me, he never met his full potential. Because to me, man, he was a tall guy. I mean, if he just knew how to use his reach a little bit better, instead of getting into those banking wars where he got put to sleep, I think he could have been a heavyweight champion. Like you said, man, he beat Stipe. So to me, man, he could have been a champion in the UFC as well.
He beat Nogueira when Nogueira was still the man.
Yeah.
He has unfortunately had health issues, and this is what's driving his retirement now. He's only 32. He's having some issues. It's not vertigo, but it's something causing vertigo. He's got, it's not COVID related, but last May he got really sick, and since then he just hasn't been right. You're talking about a man that big and tall to be battling issues with vertigo. A few years back he had the heart issues, and he almost stayed retired because of that. So, health comes first. A lot of these fighters put their bodies on the line, but the shelf life isn't always forever. So I do want to thank Stefan Struve for an incredible career. He's fought anybody and everybody in that heavyweight division. He fought Overeem. He fought Arlovsky. We just talked about the last main event of Volkov and Overeem. He fought both of them. So, shout out to Stefan Struve. Good luck in your next chapter. I'm sure we will be hearing from you soon. Speaking of news going on, it looks like the much delayed again, Khazmat Chimaev, Leon Edwards is not going to happen now. Unfortunately, Chimaev's still battling after effects of COVID. I've seen it firsthand. I know people even a year later still having lung issues, breathing issues. It's real. If you get hit with a bad enough episode of COVID, it scars your lung tissue. The pneumonia really sets in, and it sounds like that's kind of what Chimaev went through, and he's still going through. So hopefully, exciting fighter. We only saw a little glimpse of him in 2020, with a few fights that he made a lot of headlines with. So hopefully he gets back on his game in 21 and gets healthy. But Brandon, they're talking about putting Leon Edwards up against somebody else. They've talked Nate Diaz. They've talked Colby Covington. What have you heard, and what do you think should be next for Leon Edwards? They're trying to get him a fight pretty quickly.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. The fight that I want to see Leon Edwards in, and I've been saying this for a while, is Jorge Masvidal. They still got that issue of when Masvidal gave him the 2-piece in the soda. So to me, we still got to get that taken care of. But it doesn't look like Masvidal wants that fight anyway.
Well, we'll talk about that a little later. But I think Masvidal might be busy. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I think Leon wants Nate Diaz. He called out Nate Diaz on Twitter. He put it out there. So we'll see what happens with that fight. But to me, really, man, Masvidal, Nate Diaz. I know that Colby Covington's in the mix too. But apparently, though, Covington says that it's not happening. He's on the bigger and better things. So we'll see what happens with Leon. I feel bad for the guy, man. The dude wants to fight, but nobody wants to fight him. And he's top 3. He's ranked number 3 in the division, but it seems like nobody wants to fight him.
He's been a victim of circumstance too, because obviously COVID messed up his travel schedule, messed up the Woodley fight, it messed up a bunch of stuff for him in 2020. Then when he did get a fight scheduled, he got COVID. So because people forget the first time Chimaev and him were scheduled to fight, Edwards got COVID and that got pushed back. So yeah, there's just so much that's been going on with all of that. So I'm sure they'll get it too. I think Dana wants the Covington fight, even if Covington doesn't want that fight. Nate Diaz, I don't believe he's going to fight till he actually fights. He just wants headlines.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think Nate Diaz takes that fight. I think it's too dangerous of a fight for him. I think he wants somebody less technical that's just going to brawl with him or gives him a big payday, and I don't think Edwards is the payday he wants. But that's just my opinion. I honestly think Edwards is going to get a fight probably the next month. They're trying to keep that March 13th date, but I don't see that happening. But soon after that, I can see him getting back in the cage. Another bit of news, Paulo Costa, speaking of fights, him and Robert Whitaker are scheduled for April 17th in the main event of a UFC fight night. I'm not sure which number that is, maybe Vegas 21 or 22. But they were offered to move up a week, be Saturday main event, UFC on ABC 2, a lot more eyeballs, and Costa turned it down. Now, I understand why he turned it down. Whitaker said he would fight him tomorrow. Whitaker doesn't care when he fights. Brandon, you're somebody who's went through fight camps and everything like that. Even the slightest change in schedule can sometimes throw you off, even if it's 6 weeks away. Do you think Costa's making a mistake, or do you understand why he's doing it?
I mean, I do understand why he's doing it, because like you said, man, usually like saying when you're starting your camp, you got to be there's a regiment to, you got to be strict. And to me, man, Paulo Costa is a big dude. So maybe his thing is right. He maybe won't be able to make that weight that week beforehand. That's why he needs that extra weight. I mean, that extra week, to make weight. So I understand it. I mean, I'm sure, of course, when people will say, hey, ABC, bigger eyeballs, than ESPN Plus. But hey, man, it is what it is.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, I think he is turning down a bigger payday personally. I think that would obviously put more money in his pocket as far as, the way they break down the pay scale. But I don't think, I can understand not wanting to mess up your fight schedule. Last week, we hinted at it. We knew it was coming. It literally dropped right after we got done recording our episode. A number of things dropped right after we got done recording our episode. We'll talk about Brandon and I's fight picks coming up a little bit later as well. However, Bellator, they got a new home. They are back on Showtime. Well, Scott Coker is back on Showtime, another Viacom-owned company. So they're just really kind of moving here to there. And I believe some of their stuff will still be on YouTube and CBS Sports as far as their prelims that they were streaming for free online. If not, it'll be on Showtime.com or something like that. But I hear the prelims are still going to be free. Brandon, before we talk about the Grand Prix, before we talk about Pitbull and all that other stuff, do you think this is a good move for them? Or, and I'll hint to a conversation we had offline, it actually loses you as a live viewer because you don't have Showtime. A lot of people no longer carry networks like Showtime. Some get back into HBO because of HBO Max, but Showtime, HBO, Cinemax, Epic, Stars, all these major premium cable networks that we used to pay for, especially when Strikeforce and everything was going on, aren't as popular now because of Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all these streaming services. So, and they are offering, I will say this now, Showtime, when Bellator goes live on there, Showtime is offering a free 30 days and then $4.99 a month for 6 months when it's normally like 10 something a month for Showtime. So they are offering a deal if you want to subscribe to Showtime for Bellator or for whatever other reasons. But Brandon, back to the question, do you think they're losing viewers or do you think they're gaining viewers?
I mean, it's one of those things, like, I think about it, like, I feel like saying they could be, I feel like they could be a mix of both. Because the thing is, right, we all knew Paramount was like the Paramount Network when it was Spike and it became Paramount. This Paramount Network, Bellator, it just wasn't working because that's not what Paramount was, like the Paramount Network was about. So then they moved to CBS Sports Network, which I thought would be good for them, but really, like, one of the things, but not many people have CBS Sports Network. I do, so I was able to still watch it, but I just don't think they really were getting the views that they wanted. So that's why I had thought when they announced, I thought, man, maybe they're gonna make the switch and they're gonna go to the Paramount Plus network. Their CBS's version of ESPN Plus. Their digital platform. But instead, they decided to go with Showtime. I mean, hey, Showtime, they're used to doing MMA with Strikeforce. You know, they do boxing. So, I mean, they know how to handle combat sports. So I think they'll be in good hands with the production. But again, going back to your question, I'm not really sure because again, I do know some people that do have Showtime, but I know some people who don't have Showtime. So I mean, it's one of those things where is Bellator big enough of a driving force for people to maybe pick up a subscription to Showtime?
That is the question, and this Grand Prix is definitely going to drive eyes to it. As we transition, I will say the production value will obviously go up with something like Showtime because you hinted at, they've done MMA before, they do boxing still. The production value will go up. You see Ronaldo back in the game. So if he's doing some of the stuff on Showtime, I don't know what that means for Mike Goldberg. I don't know what that means for some of their existing crew. I don't know if it'll be an addition or a subtraction. I don't think even Bellator knows at this very moment, or they're not announcing what that means. If more Ronaldo's back in the game and doing the MMA fights, I mean, maybe Mike Goldberg just does the bigger events. I don't really know. But I guess we'll see. That information we don't know. But what they did announce, they announced a couple things. Before we get to the Grand Prix, we're talking about Pitbull versus Sanchez, finally official April 2nd, Bellator 255. The winner of that gets AJ McKee for the Bellator Featherweight Grand Prix. Before I get Brandon's opinion on the fight, AJ McKee came out. Well, he didn't come out. He was asked who he preferred. And, of course, his confidence was streaming through because he said he wanted Sanchez to win the Bellator Grand Prix so he could beat Sanchez. Or, no, get to the final so he could beat Sanchez and win the 145 belt and then go fight Pitbull for the 155 belt and be a double champ. So he wants to fight both of them just in a different way so he gets both of the belts. What do you see going down in the rest of this Grand Prix?
Hey man, you already know, man. I think Pitbull's gonna win, and it's gonna be Pitbull and AJ McKee in the final. And you already know AJ McKee, new champion, because I just been high on AJ McKee. But I just want to say though, I think it's smart of Bellator to start their first show on Showtime.
Yeah.
You know, I probably want to say if not their biggest star, their second biggest star, because I mean, I guess you can maybe say, I don't know if it's Pitbull or it could be Cyborg is their biggest star, you know. So I think that's just good to introduce the Showtime people to Pitbull, see what he's about. I mean, hey, Sanchez as well. I mean, you can't sleep on him. He is a stud as well. So I'm kind of also too interested to see what's going to be on the rest of that card as well.
Yeah, I don't know if they've really announced anything else on that card. It's going to be in Connecticut, so we'll see what kind of restrictions they have as far as fans and all that other stuff. I think Sanchez can give Pitbull a little bit of problems because of his reach, his height advantage over Pitbull. Pitbull's a little bit shorter, kind of like the name. He's a stocky little Pitbull, him and his brother. But one of the most talented fighters on the planet. He's called out Max Holloway, which, I will say this. We didn't talk about this when we first talked about this last week with him calling out Holloway. What a slap in the face to Volkanovski. Like, he didn't call out the UFC champ. Mm-hmm. He called out Max Holloway because even he thinks Max Holloway is the best fighter in that division in the UFC. So I'm sure that'll put another chip on the shoulder of Volkanovski and Brian Ortega saying, hey, why didn't we get called out? But we'll see. That's going to take place April 2nd, Bellator 255. And then we're talking about the Grand Prix, which starts the next week. They basically loaded this up with every name fighter they have in 205 division, which you said maybe Pitbull or Cyborg's the most popular name in Bellator. I'd argue these 8 guys right here are the most popular people that people know in Bellator because so many of them have UFC experience. We're talking about on April 9th, Ryan Bader versus Lyoto Machida, which is a rematch. Machida won the first time. God, Lord help me, I'm going to butcher this name. But then you got Corey Anderson going up against Yusha Murdoff, or Yagashi Murdoff. I'm sorry. I know I cannot get that name right. I apologize to the fighter. But you're talking about a guy 18-5-1. Definitely a challenge for Corey Anderson, somebody else's same size, same age, not a Melvin Manoff. So that's going to be exciting to watch. And then on the other side, you know, Nemkov versus Phil Davis. That's a rematch, and Nemkov is now currently, because he beat Bader, currently the 205 champion in Bellator. And then the fight that everybody wanted to see, the whole reason why Yoel Romero signed with Bellator. You're talking about Rumble Johnson and Yoel Romero. So that's April 16th. So that thing gets kicked off with a bang. Who do you think is going to end up winning the whole damn thing?
First, I want to say, man, kudos to Bellator for giving the fans the fight that they really want, which is Yoel Romero, Anthony
right
Johnson.
Off the bat.
You know, because it's one of those things where, you know, you have an tournament, but like, oh, hopefully these guys can meet, but things happen. But they gave us the fight right off the bat. And also, too, I'm happy that they gave Phil Davis the champ, because in my mind, he was the next contender. So he gets his title shot in the tournament, which is cool for that.
Yeah, much like the featherweight tournament, the champ has to defend his belt the whole way.
Yep. Now, who do I think will win and who do I want to win? Two different things. Who do I think will win? To be honest with you, and something I was thinking about for a while is, though, I think Ryan Bader, because in my mind, he has the easiest path to victory. You get through Lyoto Machida. Hopefully, you know, he does that. And then next he has Corey Anderson or the other person whose names we can't say.
Go ahead, say it. I had to say it. You say it.
I don't even remember it, man. It's off the top.
Yaxi Murdoch.
Yeah, Yaxi Murdoch. But I just think Bader can handle that.
Just rolls off your tongue, Brandon.
Yeah. Why you got the other side? Those dudes, they're going through wars. Rumble, Yoel, that's going to be a war. Davis and the champ, that's going to be a war as well. You know, so to me, man, Bader could come out being healthy, being the healthiest one, and he could win. Now, who do I want to win? I'm not gonna lie. I either want Phil Davis or I kind of want Yoel Romero just to walk in there and just say, "I love you, man," and just take care of business. But we'll see what happens.
I gotta say, I think a lot of it depends on two things. One, if Bader can get by Machida, because that's just a matchup nightmare. It was a matchup nightmare the first time Bader fought him. He couldn't figure out Machida. Machida just picked him apart.
Knocked him out.
Yeah. It's just Bader never saw the shots coming. You know, that style of karate, some people just can't pick it up. Some people just roll through it. His wrestling didn't really help him because Machida has great takedown defense. You know, he's been in this game a long time. But even back in the day when he fought somebody like Rashad Evans, you could see he had takedown defense. He had great karate, but he had takedown defense. You don't always need to be a wrestler, but you do need to know how to stop takedowns. The other side, we don't really know what to expect out of Corey Anderson. You know, we talked about this when he fought Manoff, you know, playing devil's advocate. Should he have won against Manoff? Absolutely. Could Manoff have pulled off the upset? Maybe, because Corey Anderson's been knocked out before. I think the biggest problem is a lot of people don't really know what to expect out of Yaxi Murdoch. And that's going to be a question mark, but I don't see Corey Anderson beating Ryan Bader or Lyoto Machida. On the other thing, you talked about Phil Davis being next. If the Nemkov that beat Ryan Bader shows up, nobody in this tournament touches him. People don't know him, but he's going to win the tournament if he fights like he fought against Bader. We didn't really know him before that, but watching the way he destroyed Ryan Bader, it would be impossible not to give him an edge over everyone else in this competition. I've seen a few of Nemkov's fights, Vadim Nemkov. He is a monster, and he's young, and he's hungry, and he's one of the best 205 fighters in the world that nobody knows. I think he'll beat Phil Davis. And the biggest question mark in this isn't Yoel Romero, because we've seen him fight recently in the last year or year and a half, is we haven't seen Rumble Johnson fight since, 2017? Give or take. Yeah. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. We don't know what kind of rust he has. When he took time off before and then went to World Series of Fighting and reinvigorated his career, he looked like a monster. He was knocking everybody out. But now he's a few years older. He's been out of the cage a few years. He's been doing other things. He hasn't been only training MMA. You know, he was doing the football training. He was doing some other stuff. We don't know what Rumble Johnson's going to show up. Rumble Johnson 3 years ago knocks out Yoel Romero in less than a minute. So I think this is one of the most exciting things Bellator's put on in a long time, even more than the Featherweight Grand Prix, because these are people that can put each other to sleep and put each other to sleep quick. A lot of that Grand Prix and the Featherweights has been like exciting, 3-round, 5-round fights. These fights aren't. I doubt half these fights go the distance. So I'm excited. My pick is Nemkov. I'm rolling with the champ. But if anything, I think the upset can come from Rumble, because if it's Rumble from 3 years ago, he's putting to sleep everybody. And Brian Bader's already proved he's got a suspect chin. And you can't wrestle Rumble because Rumble can wrestle too.
Yep.
And I just don't think Romero's got anything left in the tank. I saw his last few fights. He didn't look great. Obviously, the Izzy fight, he just stood there for like 5 rounds. I mean, nobody.
I mean, my thing with Yoel was, I remember too, man. Yeah, those fights, dude, though they're at 185, he could have been drained. 205, now hung out to that big cut.
He doesn't have to cut weight no more.
He might be vitalized. But the thing too, you talk about, like you can't wrestle Rumble. You can wrestle him because DC did it not once but twice.
But that's an Olympic level wrestler.
That's true. That is true. But hey, man, Olympics, D1, D2, man. Usman, he showed that against Woodley. D1, D2, it don't matter because he was D2, Woodley was D1, and Usman was taking him down left and right. So I mean, it's just, to me, who can mix it, who can blend it better. Now, does Yoel have good takedowns? Maybe not really. He might have the best takedowns, but you never know. You just got to see what happens, I guess, with fights.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I'll talk about a couple of the fight results real quick, and then we'll roll on to talking about UFC 258. Real quick, Titan FC took place down in Miami on February 12th. The main event had a couple people you might know. Danny Sabatello was on Dana White's Contender Series. He defeated Damon Blackshear, who just actually won in Bellator. In October? Because he beat one of the up-and-coming fighters. We're talking about Mike Kimball, who's one of MVP guys. So we talked a lot about Blackshear when he won. But Sabatello got the win. A couple other fighters, Olivier Murad got the win over Naimov. So it was a decent card from all accounts. I didn't get a chance to check out too much of it. Saw a couple of highlights. There wasn't really too many stoppages. I think Montez got an anaconda choke over Santiago. But other than that, it was a pretty decent card. We always love to give shout-outs to other fighting organizations, give them some love. The other thing going on, LFA 99, as they creep towards their 100th card, Fabio Charant got the win over longtime vet Myron Dennis. So something to check out there. Give them some love. Watch some of the highlights on YouTube if you can, or wherever you get the highlights. Now, the main event of the evening. I'm talking about UFC 258. I talked about this earlier. I gave Dana a lot of hate for this because, let's be real, there were better cards on some of these UFC fight nights, the Vegas cards, the UFC Fight Islands, than this pay-per-view. There was one title on the line, which I guess qualifies it for pay-per-view nowadays. But I personally wouldn't have paid $70 for this card. I did watch the whole thing. Not going to tell Dana White how I watched the whole thing, but I will say it was one of the clearest streams I've ever seen. Just saying. For all the people he's shutting down. But that said, I pay for ESPN Plus. This would have been a fantastic card on ESPN Plus. Many of these fights ended up being fantastic fights, but you don't know most of these people. I can walk down the street. Nobody's going to tell me who Gabe Green is or Chris Gutierrez. They may know a Bilal Muhammad. They may know a Kevin Gastelum, obviously. But for the co-main event to be Maycee Barber and Alexa Grasso, which ended up being a fun fight, but that's your co-main event. That's the fight you're helping sell an entire pay-per-view. That seems kind of weak to me. That's just my personal opinion. I don't always put my personal opinions on Brandon's shoulders, so I'll leave it on mine. But let's talk about this fight a little bit. Let's start off with the co-main event. Alexa Grasso beat Maycee Barber. Last week, we both went 2-0 in our picks. I picked the Jimmy Rivera fight. He picked the Jillian Robertson fight. Both those fights got scratched late. Of course, Rivera right after we got off the air. I did pick Ricky Simone, but I figured since both our fights got scratched, we'll only count the main event and co-main event. So both Brandon and I, 2-0. Back-to-back weeks for me, just saying. I know Brandon's waiting for me to go 0-3. I am too, but for now, another undefeated week for your boy. 2-0. But Alexa Grasso looked great the first couple rounds. Maycee Barber showed a lot of heart in that third round. When she could have quit, she didn't. She came out all guns blazing and she almost knocked Grasso out that third round. What you think of that fight?
Hey man, it was a good fight. I mean, it's basically like that fight kind of went just like how I said. I said, hey, if Maycee Barber tries to stand with Grasso, she was gonna get picked apart, and that's what happened. It wasn't really to the third round where Maycee Barber was just like, yo, I'm just gonna get up in your face, make it dirty, is where she started to have success. But
she just went all out. She just went for it.
Yeah, exactly. But Grasso kept her composure. She still kept her space. She would tie Barber up. When Barber would go crazy on her, and then she would just spin off and she would just working her strikes, working her jab, working her combination. So it was a good fight. Maycee Barber gets a lot of hate. I'm not a Maycee Barber hater. I just haven't picked her in a couple of her fights because I think the other people were just a little bit better. But I am interested in her career, see where she goes. But I do think that she did show some better improvement, than her last fight against Roxanne Modafferi. The only thing is with her, man, she's got to get her distance down, because she was throwing punches at Grasso, but she was nowhere near her, so that's just the only thing I probably want to say with her, man. She just got to work on her. She got to work on her distance. She got to know her distance, where she is, where her opponent is, and I think she can be dangerous.
Yeah, we both kind of said the same thing. Grasso was just more technically savvy than Barber. Barber can knock you out. She showed that power in the third round. If she went balls to the wall, no offense to the ladies out there, but if she had gone like hard in the beginning and just let it all hang out and go for it, there might have been a different fight. She came out kind of tentative, tell a little bit of cage rust, and Grasso did what she's supposed to do. Grasso's a very technical fighter. She's got the jiu-jitsu, she's got the striking, she's got a little bit of everything. She came out and just picked her apart. She kept the distance. She did good on the ground. She did a little bit of everything, and it was clear it was 2-0 going in the third round. And then all she really had to do was survive that third round, which she did. So be interested to see what's next for Grasso. I could see a fight with somebody like Jessica Eye, maybe in the Cynthia Calvillo if you want to jump her way up in the rankings. Currently, she's 10th in that division. Barber has gone down to 15. I don't really know what's next for Barber. She's 22, but she is coming off 2 straight losses. She's got a world of potential.
I would probably I would probably flip that, and I would probably see Barber against Eye because they both just lost. Remember, I just lost to Calderwood.
Yeah, but I think Eye is much higher ranked. She's like 8th.
You could be, but so 8 and 15. All right, maybe. I could probably see Grasso against, like you said, a Cynthia Calvillo, or maybe a Caitlin Jakagan if they're closer in the rankings. I can't remember.
I think Caitlin's all the way. So Caitlin's all the way up at 2.
Never mind then. No, that'd be too. Yeah,
I think Viviana Arahu, I always mess up her name. She's 7. Grasso went from 15 to 10. So her and Barber switched. They're both 10 and 15 the other way.
Gotcha.
I think the sleeper name in there is the other Shevchenko, Antonia, who keeps moving up. I feel like she has a bigger name than Barber, even though they're right next to each other in the rankings. And I feel that's a nightmare matchup for Barber. I think Shevchenko would just
you don't want to strike with her. So Barber would have to work her takedowns and ground and pound on if she's gonna go up against
another
her.
good name is KGB Lee, Andrea Lee. She's right there at 12. That might be a good matchup for Barber. Grasso's kind of hard to say because there's a lot of people in that 1 to 9 range that have all been title contenders for Valentina, one way or the other. They're all still in the hunt. So how many people are willing to take a lower ranked fighter and take a risk? Grasso has all the potential in the world to be in one of those title fights. I don't think she beats a Shevchenko, but anything's possible. The main event of the night, of course, Kamaru Usman defeated Gilbert Burns, 3rd round knockout. Me and Brandon got into it a little bit after this one, a little dust up talking about Herb Dean, but let me be very clear about something. One, Gilbert Burns almost finished Usman in the first. Don't make any mistake about it. Gilbert had Usman rocked. He just couldn't finish him off. You know, Usman is one of the toughest guys mentally and physically in this division, one of the best champs the division's ever seen. Is he better than GSP? You know what, time will tell. There's a long way to go before that. You can talk about his winning streak, but GSP defended that belt like 12 times. So long way to go from 4 to 12. That said, the second round, once Usman really set in with that jab and kept that distance and just, I mean, he was knocking Burns down with a jab. And the first time Burns slipped and fell trying to go for a kick, the way he tore up his legs on the ground with those, like just kicking his legs and nailing a punch in his stomach, nailing a punch in his head. And eventually Burns had to get up because Burns knew he wasn't going to come down into the jiu-jitsu world. Burns was almost finished in the second. I knew if he didn't recover during the break in the third, he was done regardless of whatever happened. I'm not going to take anything away from Usman because Usman, I said, you can check the timeline. I said it in the third round. It's over if Burns isn't recovered. It's done. And Burns was not recovered, and he was just battering him. My thing about Herb Dean is this. What he did had no effect on the outcome of the fight. But he's gun shy now. He's taken so much criticism over the last couple years of his decisions that he doesn't jump right in and either finish a fight or let it go. He was so nervous. Watch the replay. He was hovering over. It was like two guys coming down at Burns. Burns didn't know which way to look. You saw him at one time. He was like, huh? The fight should have been stopped. That's not the question. The fight should have been stopped. It was a good stoppage. But it's something that Herb Dean should have stepped in decisively and been like, this fight is over. Instead, he was like, wait, no, not yet. Okay, wait, no, not yet. Okay, break him up. And I think that's how you get fighters hurt, Brandon. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying it took anything away from Usman because I told everybody, Usman was finishing him in the third the way Burns was done. Nothing Herb Dean did took away from the fact that Usman was winning that fight. But that was my only 2 cents on Herb Dean. What do you think of the fight? Break it down for me.
And Usman just looked good, man. His striking, like I said before, man. I said how this fight, he went out west, hanging out with Trevor Whitman. Like I said, if there was any other coach I could
Trevor Whitman paid dividends.
Trevor Whitman would be the guy. And that fight showed why, man. Even I noticed it. Even it was after the first round. I think Trevor Whitman told him, "Hey, man, just work your jab, keep working your jab, stay relaxed, stay cool. We're gonna." I thought about you when I heard that.
Yeah,
and he told them, he was like, "Hey, we're gonna pick it up in the next round." So I mean, to me, their game plan was we're gonna take Gilbert Burns deep. You know, we're gonna test his cardio, see where he is. Because like we all know, man, Usman is that guy that he gets stronger as the rounds go on, while most people get tired. So I think that was the thing, was like, hey, let's get it to the third round, and then that's when we'll start turning it on. But man, that jab, man, was just firing off, man. I mean, honestly, the finish reminded me of like Anderson Silva Forrest Griffin, which is probably my like favorite MMA fight, because Anderson Silva stopped Forrest Griffin with the jab. You know, it was the same thing, man. Like he went down. And then he said he went for the finish. But like I said, man, I tell you, man, coaching does make a difference sometimes in some fights.
Yeah, I mean, I think Whitman paid dividends. I think you were 100% right. I mean, Usman always had a decent jab. He always had some power in his hands. You saw that in every fight he's had. I'd be scared if Usman ever started fast. Like if he came out and just started fast, because every fight, the Masvidal fight, he let hang around. Covington, you know, he stopped him late. Woodley, he kind of just let it hang around for a few rounds. If Usman just came out and started fast, I think he'd have like a bunch more first round finishes. This guy is just a monster in the cage. He can wrestle, he can strike. He doesn't usually, I think his defense could use some work. Obviously, Burns got to him. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a guy who's a world-class jiu-jitsu guy. If he almost knocks you out, that's something you might want to shore up as far as like avoiding getting hit. But he also has a tough chin. He kept coming. And, at the end of the day, he wears you down. Like he says, you might get me in the beginning, but I'm going to get you. And eventually he got him. And, you know, it's a 5-round fight. And in the third round, that was it. There's a lot of what ifs and could ifs when you're talking about a champion that's, you know, already going through some of his top contenders. He clearly called out Jorge Masvidal after the fight. You know, Masvidal's been talking a lot of shit about taking a fight on 6 rounds or 6 days notice and breaking his nose. There is some word that Usman's nose was actually broken before the fight. So who knows if that's just, you know, shit talk or real. I'm not really sure of the semantics of that. I will say I've heard a lot of negative MMA community feedback on the Usman-Masvidal fight. They don't want to see it again. I personally do. I think people real quickly forget that Masvidal was the hottest fighter in the division in the world going into that Usman fight. And since then, nobody's really talking about Masvidal. But he did take that fight on 6 days' notice. And even if that is a built-in excuse, he went 5 rounds. Nobody else is really going 5 rounds with Usman. Covington didn't make it all the way. Burns didn't make it. Masvidal on 6 days' notice, a 20-pound weight cut in 6 days, went 5 rounds with Usman. Can he beat Usman? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if anybody can beat Usman right now. But I would be thoroughly entertained by a Masvidal with a full camp going into Usman with a full camp, knowing he's fighting Masvidal. That's another thing, because he didn't know he's fighting Masvidal with the late dropout. I don't think there's anybody else in the division for him to fight right now. I think Edwards needs to win a fight before he gets a title shot. Covington, his last fight was getting his jaw broken, or not his last fight, but the fight before that, getting his jaw broken against Usman. Thompson, I don't think he's there. He lost the 2 title fights to Woodley. He needs to maybe one more big win before he gets a shot. I know he called out Usman, but I just don't see it. And then the mystery name, I think, is always Michael Chiesa. People don't give him a lot of respect. You know, he's only, I think, ranked 7th or 6th.
Yeah.
That's a big jump to go up to the top, to jump all the top 5 guys to get a title shot. But it's either him or Edwards. If you're not going to talk about Masvidal, who do you think's next for the champ?
I mean, one man, I was want to get on the whole Masvidal thing, man. It's like people are just prisoner at the moment because they think of the last fight. And like I said, man, he took that on 6 days notice, saying, man, you're freaking flying out to Abu Dhabi. You're fighting at like 7 o'clock in the morning anyway. You know, you're not at your like normal fight time. And like I said, man, you know, he did go all 5 rounds. But a lot of people thinking like, oh man, you know, we saw that fight is gonna be the same thing, man. It's gonna be nothing but footstops. You know, but the thing was though, man, the fight was boring. It wasn't exciting, right? If it was an exciting fight to the people, they would be like, oh yeah, I'm down to see that fight. Because think about it, man, Conor McGregor just got knocked out by Dustin Poirier, but Conor fans want to see that third fight. It's like, why? Your boy lost. He got dropped. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that. That's just how MMA fans are, man. They're just fickle. Like I said, it was a boring fight. There wasn't a finish. They're like, oh, they're just like, oh, it's gonna be the same thing. But the thing is, though, it's not gonna be the same thing because now he's with Trevor Whitman. Because I don't think he's going back to Sanford. I think
he said he's gonna do both.
Yeah. So, but hey, man, you're adding Trevor Whitman into your mix now. I think it will be a different fight. So I wouldn't mind it, but I mean, who else is there? Like you said, man, there's Wonder Boy. I mean, I can see Wonder Boy again because, like I said, his title fights, they were against Woodley. Woodley's no longer the champion. Now it's Usman, somebody different. They never fought. He has fought Edwards on the way up. He beat Edwards. That's why Edwards is eliminated.
That's you're also right. Edwards' last loss too, like 8 fights ago.
You're right. And then the other person is Chiesa. And like Chiesa, I think it only has like 2 fights at welterweight.
Are you proud of me? I said it right this episode.
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, right. So I don't think he beat Chiesa. Like I said, I think he needs that fight. Like to me, I'm down to see Chiesa versus Covington. I think that fight should happen. You know, but to me, if you're going by rankings only, then to me it should be Wonder Boy. But if you're gonna give Usman and Jorge their fight, then I'm down to see that fight too, man. The thing is, man, like people get on Usman for calling out Masvidal, but it's like, no, he's not looking for a money fight. Is that Masvidal's running his mouth and he said, yo, you keep talking, I'll see you. Like I said, like those dudes almost
exact words where he's gonna put him in a coffin.
Yeah, like I mean, like those dudes almost came to blows outside of the cage. It's like this, but it's like the thing, man. People need to understand, man. It's like, yeah, there are professional fighters, and then there are dudes who get down in the streets if they got to. Masvidal's one of those guys. Usman's one of those guys. Colby Covington is not one of those guys. He runs his mouth, but if you see him outside, he'll try to be nice to you. Those dudes will handle business. It's like this is how certain fighters are, you know. So I don't get mad at him because he's like, yo, I'm gonna handle business. This dude wants to keep running his mouth. I'll break his jaw just like I did Covington. So we'll see what happens. I mean, supposedly Dana White's trying to say that the fight's gonna happen. That they might be the next coaches for the Ultimate Fighter. Hey man, I'm down for it. You know, like I said, man, like Usman said this earlier, like last week, and it'll be so true if he does become the coach of the Ultimate Fighter. But my man is so much following like in the footsteps of Rashad Evans. You know, it's like they've done so many similar things. And to me, man, Rashad, like to me, the best season of the Ultimate Fighter is the Rashad Evans Rampage with season 10 that had Kimbo Slice. But those dudes going back and forth, one of the most fun, yeah. Yeah, like, you know, those people going back was so fun. Like, I think this could be the same thing too. You know, if it does happen.
I put it up there with Conor and Uriah Faber, like as far as entertainment.
Yeah,
but with the amount of people,
I probably would say maybe Faber and Cruz, they could have been because that was the live season too.
Yeah, I think the amount of names that came out of that season 10 though were epic with Kimbo and Roy Nelson and Matt Mitrione. People forget he was on that.
Yep, he was on there too. Yep,
a lot of it, like big heavyweights came out of that.
Brendan Schaub was on there.
Brendan Schaub. Real quick before we pick another fight to talk about and then move on to our picks, what's next for Burns? That's the toughest one.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, man. Nah, I mean, he just fought. He's gonna need some time to relax.
Well, he wants to have a quick turnaround.
Because I mean, because
I don't know if he medically can get cleared, but he wants to fight again in a quick.
Because I mean, in my head, I'm like, yo, why not let him and Edwards fight then? You know, Edwards wants to fight. He wants somebody big. You know, that dude was just ranked number 1. You beat him. That's to me automatic title shot. So I mean, hey, if Burns is up for it, man, he could get Edwards, or man, maybe it could be Burns and Wonder Boy, you know, or it could be Burns and Chiesa if Covington's hiding from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Covington does this, right? Like he talks all his game, like he's like, I'll fight anybody, and then every time somebody presents him, he's like, that's not worth my time. Yep. But then when Covington does get in the cage, he looks like a top level fighter that can beat anybody, except for Usman. That's always like the tough thing with Covington. Like, he wants to be hated. It's clear he likes playing the bad guy. But he kind of holds the whole division hostage because how long did we wait for him versus Woodley? And then when he got into it, they finally fought. It was Woodley on his way down, not Woodley in his prime. So I don't know what to make of Covington. I'd like to see Covington and Edwards fight. I don't think it's going to. I think Burns and Edwards makes a lot of sense if they can push it off a couple more months, but I don't think Edwards wants to keep waiting. He's already waited a year and a half. Exactly. Burns versus Thompson makes a lot of sense, even though Thompson, I know, wanted to fight Masvidal as well. Burns versus Chiesa, that makes a lot of sense too. Chiesa just fought recently too, so he can wait a few months till Burns gets medically cleared. So a lot of stuff to make sense. What other fight kind of stood out to you on that card?
To be honest with you, man, I'm gonna go with the Kelvin Gastelum fight, man. Like to me, in that fight,
good.
Yeah, like to me, he went back to his roots, which was wrestling. Because to me, man, for a lot of his fights, he fell in love with his striking, which is usually what happens with wrestling.
I didn't realize it had been 3 years since he had won.
Yeah, I mean, hey, man, that's
or 4 years.
Yeah, like that's how it goes. But I mean, I was happy for him, man. I was rooting for him. So I mean, he looked good. He looked real good.
I'll say a couple things real quick. One, Polyana Viana against Mallory Martin. She looked amazing. Martin took the takedown, but it was all Viana once they got to the ground. From a triangle transition to an armbar. Like Sergio always said, there are levels to this, especially on the ground. And Viana was, as she likes to say it, rice and beans jiu-jitsu beating Mallory Martin. So those are Viana's words, not mine.
Yeah.
So don't come at me. My wife is Peruvian. I swear to God, I love the Latinx culture. So please don't come at me. I already got my hate speech in earlier for the Gina Carano. I don't need more for the comments. But if it does get us some comments, feel free right below. Please leave a comment. Bilal Muhammad looked great against Diego Lima. Lima had his moments, but Muhammad controlled it the whole way.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's really hard to kind of decide what's next for. You know, you look at the rankings, he's all the way down at 13. You would think
he called out. He called out Lang. You leech. You know, he wants to leech because I think he's ranked number 12. So, you know, we'll see what happens if he gets that fight that he wants.
I'll tell you another good fight if Chimaev comes back anytime soon. Chimaev and Muhammad are right next to each other in the rankings too. That could be a fun fight. Yeah. And then the fight that kind of stood out to me, also the Marquez fight with Pitolo, where he came back in the third round and got the stoppage. That was crazy. I think Pitolo just kind of ran out of gas personally. Marquez, who they all thought would run out of gas from being out of the cage for so long, looked great in the third round. But he also looked like he was 2 weight classes above the guy as well. Like he was huge compared to Anthony Hernandez with a big submission over Vieira, who was heavily favored. There were a lot of major upsets on this card, as far as like minus 300 or more fighters that lost on this card. That was huge. Vieira clearly gassed midway through the first round. I don't know if it was an adrenaline dump or what. I don't think anybody really knows. He doesn't even know why he gassed so quickly. But big shout out to Anthony Hernandez with that win. His coaches said don't go for the submission. He tapped out one of the world's best jiu-jitsu fighters. So, and then I keep singing his praises. Ricky Simon, that's my dude. Brian Kelleher never had a chance. He landed a shot here or there, but just pure volume, almost Dominic Cruz. Like he just kept coming after him and after him. Ricky Simon never got tired. You would think somebody who just fought like 4 weeks ago or something like that might run out of gas. They did this fight at a catch weight just so neither one had to like worry about the weight cut since Ricky Simon just cut down to 135. This isn't a permanent move. He's going to go back to 135. But Ricky Simon, his last couple fights, he looks like a player in that division. And then, of course, we already talked about the other results. Chris Gutierrez over Yule, Gabe Green over Rowe. So that's it for that. Real quick, because I know Brandon has to get out of here soon, we're going to go ahead and make some picks for the upcoming UFC Vegas 19. Talking about Blaydes and Lewis. Let's start with the main event. The floor is yours, sir.
So I like Derrick Lewis. My heart picks Derrick Lewis, but my mind is saying Blaydes is winning it. I think he's just going to wrestle him. Blaydes does have power in his hands too, but I just think Blaydes is going to win. I mean, I could see Lewis tire out, and then maybe Blaydes could get a TKO finish in like the 3rd or 4th round. But I just think it's Blaydes. I think Blaydes is taking it.
Yeah, I know we keep like trying to like separate the standings, but I love Derrick Lewis. I want Derrick Lewis to knock Blaydes out. I'm not gonna lie. I want him to knock him out. Derrick Lewis, especially when he wins, is one of the most entertaining things you can watch in the world of mixed martial arts. Yep. Hopefully he keeps his pants on if he does win. But I think Blaydes is just going to wrestle him, take him down, smother him. I don't think Lewis is going to get off his shots. You saw it when Lewis fought the boa constrictor. Lewis did enough on his feet to win that fight, but there were times where Lewis got taken down and he couldn't really get off his back. It's like the old person, and I'm a fat person, but to say it, like, I fell and I can't get back up. Derrick Lewis has some good takedown defense, but he's not. Blaydes is a whole nother level when it comes to wrestling, and I just don't see Blaydes allowing Lewis to land that bomb. I think he's going to come out. I think he's going to straight take him down, and he's just going to smother him until the fight's over. That's just, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a boring fight, and I think it's just what's going to happen. Next up, Caitlin Vieira versus Kunitskaya. Who you got?
I'm going with Kunitskaya.
Finally, we can be different. All right, let's go.
Yeah. Like Caitlin Vieira, man, she's made some noise, fighting and everything like that. But I just think, man, she really just relies on her jiu-jitsu. So I just think Yana is just going to stick in point, man. Like I said, man, I'm not sure if she's still that Jackson Wink, but I want to say that she has done some time there. So, I mean, she trains with Holly Holm. So I kind of want to say she's kind of going to be like Holly Holm, and she's going to stick and move. She's going to use her striking because I think she's a black belt in Taekwondo as well. So I just think if she keeps the fight standing up, it's all her. But, you do have to be worried that, Vieira, is going to go for the takedown.
I think I think that's exactly how the fight's going to play out because, you're talking about Yana, her only losses in the last few years, you're talking about she lost to Aspen Ladd, who, if she's not hurt, she's one of the title contenders right now. She lost to Cyborg. No shame in that. And then she lost to she got choked out by Tanya Evinger. So tough losses. But on the other hand, Vieira's only losses to Aldana, I believe that was at 135.
Yeah.
So we talked about after the Holly Holm fight, Aldana at 135 versus 45 is a different fighter. She's vicious at 135. So to get knocked out by Aldana is a bad loss. But you're talking about Vieira, who just went the distance and looked great against Eubanks. She beat Zingano. She beat Sarah McMahon. She beat Evan Smith. Her only loss is Aldana, where she got caught late in that first round. I'm gonna take Vieira. I think just overall, I think her overall game right now is better than Yana's overall game. She's a couple years younger. I just think Vieira's got more going on. Real quickly before I let you get out of here, pick another fight, and we can talk about that, and then I'll pick one, and we can go.
I'm picking Phil Hawes, man. Picking him. He's the main event.
There were two fights I thought you might pick, so I'm glad you went with that one, so I could do the other one. Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm going Phil Hawes, man. Like I said, man, I was looking forward to his last fight, but it got canceled. Now he's back at it. So I'm going Phil Hawes. I think he's gonna get a stoppage. Like I said, man, he's got some power in his hands and his legs. Saying he's a good wrestler. So I say maybe a TKO finish second round for him.
You got to watch out for Imavov. He's got ground game. He's got knockout power. So it's going to be a fun fight. My fight, and this one actually, we talk a lot about Sergio. God bless him. This one was something he was calling for a long time. Unfortunately, Brandon's teammate Mike Trezano had to drop out. I'm not sure if it's injury or COVID or what's going on with Mike. But he had to drop out of his fight with Rafael Alves. Pat Sabatini, longtime CFFC vet, current CFFC champion, finally getting his shot in the UFC. This dude is a nightmare matchup for anybody. I think Pat Sabatini is going to win this fight. I think it's going to be, unfortunate for Mike, but a blessing for Pat Sabatini that he finally gets his chance to shine. And I think Pat Sabatini just got his way into the UFC, and I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. You have any thoughts on that fight?
And just shout outs to Pat Sabatini, man, for answering the call. Short notice. Hey man, that's usually what happens, man. Again, we're talking about another CFFC alum, man. They're starting to produce more people to the UFC and Bellator.
And it's kind of a fair matchup. I was only UFC experiences on Dana White's Contender Series, so neither one of them have the bright lights experience under the UFC. So it'll be both of their true debuts. So
yeah,
it'll be a fun fight. Both of them are on win streaks. Like I said, everybody in the Northeast knows Pat Sabatini. So rooting for him. That's my pick. So me and Brandon got a couple different picks this week. Let's see who comes out on top. Who knows? One of us might be 2-1. One of us might be 1-2. I don't know. I'm looking to go 3-0 again. So we'll see. Brandon, anything else you want to add before we get out of here today?
Yeah, man. Buy some merch, people. Buy some merch. Art of MMA.
Fighters first, always.
It's hoodie season. Up here in the Northeast, it's actually hoodie season in Texas as well because they got snow. So, hey, wherever you are, go get yourself a hoodie. You get yourself a short sleeve shirt like how me and Mike got.
It's 70 degrees here in Tampa. I'm sure people at home can turn up the volume to hear that one.
It's 50 here now.
Well, it's supposed to be 70s and 80s here in Tampa. Feel free to hop on, get a Fighters First t-shirt. Got the Way of the Fist, MMA versus everybody. Little shout out to Slim Shady and Detroit versus everybody with that one. Got some awesome hoodies. Got a beanie if your head's cold and you're living up in the Northeast or even in Texas. Got some dope accessories for your phone. So a lot of cool stuff on the way as well. Shop. Make sure you use the promo code Usman10 to save 10%. artofmma.com/shop. For Brandon and myself, we're out.